So one of my debate team members, in absentia always, because, they're basically a legend, Shuhei Yoshida, talked about the reason Japan studio closed. I was watching Destiny's stream. He had already streamed it because I was watching MK Pro Comp during his stream time. Mortal Kombat to me is very important, guys. And when I kind of got to this point, I saw that he cited this article from VGC, Video Games Chronicle. So I said, all right, Jordan Midler, what are you talking about? PS5. Japan Studios closed because the AA market has disappeared, says Shuhei Yoshida. So if I'm correct, the whole conversation about the ultimatum that Jim Ryan gave him was basically a demotion. Or perhaps a shift out of the way so that Jim could push forward some of his agenda. I mean, there are two scenarios. I'm not saying that it makes him any less of a legend to me. To me, I think he's probably one of the pioneers and someone who has greatly earned my respect in, the video game world. Now, it says, as the former SI president says, the market became really difficult for the types of games Japan studios made. Interesting that he says the market. I wonder what YouTuber says the market every single time in their videos. Former PlayStation executive Shuhei Yoshida says the market became really difficult for Sony Japan Studio style games, which contributed to the studio's closure. Yoshida, who left PlayStation earlier this year after a 30-year career, has given several interviews about his time at PlayStation. The latest comes from Sacred Symbol PlayStation podcast. I actually did go ahead and finally watch that podcast. I gotta say though, compared to Greg Miller, and I'm not talking about the, any character thing on both guys. I'm just talking about their style of interviews. I would prefer that the host, be a lot less involved in talking. Just ask the question and let these guys just run, in my opinion. When asked about the closure of PlayStation Japan Studio and the fan perception about PlayStation losing its Japanese influence, Yoshida claimed that it was the market that dictated Sony's shift in focus away from Japan studio IP. Now, it's time for me to basically sit down here and say the market 1 zillion times. I've been telling a lot of our audiences on all sides, Xbox, PlayStation, even Steam, whoever you are, there is a video game market. That market is largely influenced by us, the consumers, other players in the market, and potentially any other factors that we may see or may not see. In fact, there's an entire book that I've actually shared. I did an economics lesson here. Where I looked up Michael Porter's book on competition. I actually got myself a copy finally, and I talked about the different market forces. I see a lot of really strange people, in some sense, thinking that this is a joke, but there is a real market and market forces that pushes companies left and right. If these market forces are not acknowledged, anybody who's telling you anything about these industries are a pure joke. They're just the joke. That's all it is. There's just no way else to say it in a nice way, because for the most part, it's either they are aware and choose to lie and obfuscate, or they're not aware and refuse to educate themselves on exactly what is going on. I didn't make up the market. The market is made up of you, me, consumers previous, consumers after, consumers present, and also other industry providers of similar products, goods, and services. And believe you me, sometimes even parties that are not in this conversation. Are you trying to tell me now that with the cost of goods out there, that games are not being affected? Even look at your own, specific situation. If it came down to satisfying a more important need versus buying a brand new video game, you would not think twice. That need would be satisfied, and that video game will not be bought. It doesn't matter what happens. And this is just freaking bacon, eggs, and milk affecting gaming. That's how human commerce and economics work. That was exhilarating. During my time, people gave me credit, but one of the things I was not successful at was having a successful service game. Interesting. And the other things is I was not able to have amazingly successful games made in Japan, Yoshida explained. Other than Gran Turismo, We had many great products, but it really didn't have many AAA level successful products. That became more and more important as the big games became bigger. The indies filled the gap, and the AA market seems to have disappeared, he told Sacred Symbols podcast. Oh, so this is why PlayStation was money hiding all these games. I had to quip in there. I had to throw that in there. Most of the IPs that Japan Studio had were in that smaller AA size group, and the market became the market. Oh my gosh, the market became really difficult for these kinds of games. For example, after Gravity Rush 2, director Keiichiro Toyama tried to come up with a new concept, but we were not able to greenlight any of his new concepts, even though they were really interesting. Speaking more about Toyama, you should have said, in my mind, I remember his product looked like something the company wouldn't support. The company was looking for AAA titles, and we really struggled to get the game going. So when Japan Studios was shut down and he became independent, he was able to create Slitherhead, and he also talked about other games out there as well. Guys, this is the reason why I will not concede the MLB The Show argument with our audiences that say that somewhere, somehow, MLB forced PlayStation's hand to put that game on Xbox. I can't in any way logically believe that that is just simply the case. There had to have been market pressures on someone that would have made everybody come to the table to finally agree to something like that. And the fact that MLB's highest sales were only realized when the game went to Xbox is simply indicative of that. The game was not selling very well. If MLB had told PlayStation, we want more license fees, and didn't even say anything after that, PlayStation would have had to put that game on another platform, regardless of whether MLB, suggested it or not, because their studios would not have been able to afford the development cost with the, comparison to the sales, and then at the same time pay those development fees. So a little bit of, I would say consideration here is necessary, because if you don't consider it, that the market forces were pulling, then, you're missing a lot of the context. I've even seen people tell me that there's just no way that they could have done it. That there's no way they could have made a baseball game without that. And a lot of these people don't realize that. They're talking to somebody who played Pro Evolution Soccer for many years, where you can actually mod your Pro Evolution Soccer game. I don't know if many of you know that, but you can actually take your game and install mods that would pretty much have jerseys, that would have all kinds of stuff attached to them. And to be very honest, ladies and gentlemen, it actually did work very well. In fact, it was weird because that ability to mod the games was only available on PlayStation. I don't know if many of you didn't even play Pro Evolution. So when we're talking about this thing from a sports perspective, this is why it makes me laugh when people keep saying this stuff about MLB The Show, right? Because MLB The Show is, one of those games where it will be too easy to do it. You just make and design, your players, your teams, your rules, your refs, and everything, and you can give it whatever you want. You can give it generic, players and generic outfits and stuff, and players can build and mod their own versions of all of this stuff without any problems. We did this with Pro Evolution, and the only versions that would do it were the PC version and the PlayStation version. I think for some strange reason, maybe Xbox couldn't support it, or it was some kind of underhanded PlayStation, thing. I don't know what it was. Okay, it wasn't PlayStation's fault. It was Microsoft, dum-dums. They basically put a whole policy where you could not, apparently, this is the Pro Evolution Soccer subreddit. They're saying that you can't do it because of Microsoft's policy. Now, again, that's the official news out there, but hey, who knows, man? With PlayStation's capability to money hat even freaking stores and freaking anything, even they actually did money hat an Xbox game, right? But it was retroactive after the game had been money hatted. Xbox bought it, so I'm not in any sense going to underrate their capabilities of money hatting. But what they did with Pro Evolution was they were able to get whichever licenses that they could acquire, which there are other baseball licenses out there, and then for licenses that couldn't be acquired, they just left it to the player. One of my audience members even argued with me and said, oh, if they did that, there are going to be lawsuits. Why would there be lawsuits for a game allowing players to be able to go ahead and, create mods. I don't know, guys. That's why, like I said again, this whole reality puts me in a place where I will not, there's no reason to concede, especially seeing how it had been done in the past, and Konami was able to pretty much find a way that left it in the hands of players who enjoyed their game. Because the mechanics in MLB The Show are already proven. The gamers who, basically play those games, they already like them. If they are willing, they're mods that are easy for them to basically install. There are people who are going to go ahead and make mods and stuff. It's not a problem at all. So, again, this is a lesson in market forces. If the market comes for you, you adapt or you find a new way. And Sony San Diego right now, unless they're making a concession or maybe somewhere, somehow, behind closed doors, developing or cooking up something, they're going to keep making MLB The Show games for Xbox and Nintendo because the market dictates that they do. Simple. Thanks for watching the video. Peace out.